Good afternoon and welcome to the 143rd annual meeting of the Chicago Bar Association. I'm the outgoing president, Patricia Brown Holmes. I would like to welcome you guys to the last meeting of the CBA that I have to chair. And I'm trying to stop myself from like tossing everything over at Dan and saying, I'm out of here. Who knew this job was as hard as it actually is? There is so much going on at the CBA, you just don't know until you're really all in the middle of it. But it's an organization that we can be proud of for the activity that we participate in the community, our civic endeavors, our legal affairs. I mean, the organization is fabulous. I'd like to start today's meeting by introducing our head table. To my immediate left is the far left rather, is the immediate past YLS chair, Matthew Passon. Next to Matt is CBF President Allegra Nethery. Our incoming treasurer, Maurice Grant. Our secretary, Jesse Ruiz. Our incoming second vice president, Steve Elrod. U.S. District Judge, Chief Judge, Honorable Ruben Castillo. Judge Thomas Kilbride of the Illinois Supreme Court. Our incoming president, about whom we'll say more later, Dan Kotin. And then continuing on my right, Judge Diane P. Wood, Chief Judge of the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge William Bauer, Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge Thomas Mulroy, incoming First Vice President. Monsignor Kenneth Velo, the Invocato. And coming will be Catherine List, the new YLS chair. And finally, last but definitely not least, Terry Murphy, CBA Executive Director Extraordinaire. I'd also like to recognize and acknowledge some special guests here today. Will all of the federal and state court judges who are not on the dais please stand and be recognized? Thank you so much. Will all of our elected public officials please stand and be recognized? Will all of our Bar Association presidents please stand and be recognized? And then I have a list of other individuals whose names I'd like to read who are here. I'll read the list, and then if you're here, please stand and we'll recognize you at the end. Michael Bergman, Executive Director, Public Interest Law Initiative. Dorothy Brown, Clerk of the Circuit Court. Leslie Corbett, Executive Director, Illinois Equal Justice Foundation. John Corkery, Dean of the John Marshall Law School, who's a table sponsor. Robert Harris, Cook County Public Guardian. He's also a member of our board. Ray Koenig, Leadership Institute convener. Allison Craig, Director, Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, Division of Real Estate. Karen Litchert Johnson, Director, MCLE Board of the Illinois Supreme Court. Jerome Larkin, Illinois Attorney Registration Commission. Mark Marquardt, Executive Director, Lawyers Trust Fund of Illinois. Larry Suffredin, CBA Legislative Counsel, and Andrea Zopp, Deputy Mayor. If you're here, please stand and be recognized. Thank you so much for your support. And I know we've started already, but I'd like to ask Monsignor Velo to please come up for invocation. Thank you. Judge Thomas Durkin, Judge Timothy Evans, Judge Shelvin Louise Marie Hall, Robert Harris, Michelle Jochner, Catherine Liss, Pamela Miniker, Paul Akmanik, and Andrew Vail. And your incoming executive board will consist of Treasurer Maurice Grant, Secretary Jesse Ruiz, Second Vice President Steve Elrod, and First Vice President, the Honorable Thomas Mulroy. We'll get to the president in a second. As I, leave the office of president of the Chicago Bar Association, I have to say it has been a whirlwind year. I started last year by breaking a finger, and I thought, gee, if that's how this year is going to start, I don't know what this presidency is going to be like. And it was something, let me tell you. We started off with a theme of membership and inclusion. And our programs this year all centered around membership and inclusion, including programs centering on access to justice and looking ahead to innovative programming from the bench and bar. We challenged lawyers to supercharge their careers and enhance their leadership skills through committee participation. We encouraged individuals to participate in more committees and, in fact, convened 3 new committees this year. We asked one of our members, Ray Koenig, to chair a planning committee for a new initiative called the New Leadership Institute. And I'd like to ask the members of our very first Leadership Institute class to please stand and be recognized. I think they're here. There we go. This was a class of leaders from large law firms in the city of Chicago, and the class met monthly to discuss all kinds of issues, including issues that would involve their leadership in the bar and in the profession in the coming years. It's been a magnificent venture. We had a waiting list for membership, and we hope that next year we'll get even more applicants to the program. So thank you all for participating in the program, and thank you so much for your dedication to learning to be great leaders. We convened a town hall on educational inequality, which was a 90-minute special featuring America's all-star educators, including Dr. Linda Darling Hammond from Stanford, Charles Payne from the University of Chicago, Jerry Wiest from Maryland, and Dr. Steve Tozer from the University of Illinois, Chicago. The 90-minute program will air on Channel 20 WYCC PBS Chicago on Monday, August 8th, and there will be other programming around that town hall meeting. I encourage you to please take the show, watch it, spend some time. It was an absolutely fabulous program, very interesting. We thank Jesse Ruiz for all of his hard work in getting that panel together and convening the town hall. It was just a magnificent program. From an inclusion standpoint, with our Dickerson Awards and our Vanguard Awards, we opened those to 12 bar associations in the community, inviting them to come in and recognize individuals who had contributed much to minority bar association activities and the greater legal community. And we had a fabulous program. It was extremely inclusive, and we've been hearing so much from all of the different bar associations regarding how grateful they were to have been included in that Vanguard Award program. We convened an international CLE in Lausanne, Switzerland, entitled Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion in Today's Global Law Firm. It was hosted by Mark Firestone, who is the Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Philip Morris International. We had over 70 people come from all over the world to talk about inclusion issues in their countries and in their bar associations. It was a fabulous program, and I have to say, I am extremely grateful to those who traveled from Chicago to participate in the program, and especially, my road dog, Judge Bauer, who is always everywhere. So thank you all, those of you who participated, and especially the three former presidents, President Cunningham, Austriaco, and Masherin, who all attended and represented Illinois extremely well. Thank you very much. We convened a women lawyers council as women lawyers as lead counsel program at the behest of Chief Judge Castillo. He had a brainchild idea. He appointed Judge Amy St. Eve to chair that symposium. We had over 450 folks show up at the courthouse to talk about issues involving women as lead counsel. It was a spectacular program, and Judge Castillo, we really, really appreciate your leadership in that program. Thank you and Judge St. Eve so much for your participation this year. We traveled to Spain for the World City Bar Leaders, where we shared programming with many of our colleagues from the largest city bar associations in the world, including London, Paris, Tokyo, Rome, Madrid, Shanghai, Beijing, Seoul, and Frankfurt. And thanks to Aurora Austriaco, I think in 2018, the World City Bar Leaders will be coming to Chicago, Illinois. So thank you very much for that leadership. We also participated in WBBM radio ads featuring many committee leaders who provided public information to our city on a variety of our committee topics, including Judge Banks, who did a bit on her elder law program. And so thank you all to the committee leaders and to the participants in the public information ads. And finally, our program on WYCC featured a variety of individuals, including YLS Chair Matt Passon and Philadelphia lawyer Joe Feldman on distracted driving. It included BWLA past President LaShonda Hunt on a program discussing the IDOC's prison system, Judge Banks discussing elder law division, and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And so before introducing our new president, we'd like to show you just a few clips of some of the WYCC programs. They're all on the internet and are accessible via the internet. Thank you. Those TV shows are a lot of fun and a lot of makeup. So now I wind down, and I just want to say a couple things. When Joy Cunningham, Justice Joy Cunningham, became the first African-American female to be president of this bar association, and I sat out in the audience watching her, I had no clue that I would follow in her footsteps as the second. And I tell you, it has been my privilege to represent this bar association over the past year, and to hug and kiss a whole lot of you guys out there, and to enjoy developing friendships, and to experience all that there is happening at the CBA. Many of you may not know, and some of you do know, that my former firm, Schiff Hardin, was extremely supportive of the CBA, supportive of me, and they still are, supportive of the programs. And they were really supportive when I took the helm and then resigned from the executive committee to become the president and to dedicate the time and energy that it deserved. And then recently, in March, you know, I left Schiff Hardin to start a new firm, Riley Safer Homes and Kinsella. And my new firm has been extremely supportive and has, you know, picked up the helm in terms of supporting the activity of this bar association. It's a wonderful association. There are great activities. Dan Cotter last year said to me, you know, it's like riding you know, one of those amusement park rides. You know, you're scared of it at first, you get on, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen, you scream the whole way, then it's over, and you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad, I could do it again, but, you know, it's all over. And you were right, Dan, it was just like that, you know. And so what I have to say to Dan Kotin, so I was surrounded by the Dans, is that the time does pass quickly. And you are going to have a lot of fun. Dan is a very powerful, you know, practicing trial lawyer. And what I've learned about him over this past year as first vice president is that, you know, he likes to have things a certain way. And he wants things to kind of, you know, be in order. And I just can't wait to see when his hair gets messed up because it's gonna happen, Dan. And so I pass the Lincoln gavel to you and wish you all the best in a fabulous year as president of the Chicago Bar Association. Ladies and gentlemen, your new president, Dan Kotin.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. That was the first standing ovation I've ever received and probably the last. Judge Holmes, you have had a fantastic year. And whether you know it or not, you've been a sort of a public figure for a long time. And so I knew of you before we ever met. And I even snuck a peek at your CV one time, and it's obvious how smart and accomplished you've been in your career. But as soon as I got to know you, as soon as I met you, I learned what a nice person you are. And then not long after that, it's obvious that you are all class. But folks, there's something I learned about Pat Holmes in the past few years, getting to know her on the executive committee and then as her first vice president, that I didn't know before, and maybe some people don't know. And that is that she is a remarkably strong person. Because on more than one occasion over the past couple of years, there have been issues in which Pat has had to stand strong based on principle alone, when it would have been so much easier to turn your back or walk away or avoid a conflict. But she hung in there based on principle, and I think that more than anything else, that's what impresses me about you. And what a remarkable year she's had at the CBA, because despite launching a new law firm midway through her bar year, which is unprecedented and really unheard of, Pat never really missed a beat as CBA president. And she shared many of the programs with you, but from my perspective, she led programs on vitally important issues involving diversity and inclusion. And those programs met with great success, largely because of Pat's leadership and her reputation and her voice in the community. And so thank you so much for taking on that role, and I hope that you will agree to hold that leadership position on those initiatives moving forward, because they remain of such importance. Thank you. Thank you. And now, Pat presented me with the traditional Lincoln gavel, which I will care for the next year. And bear with me a moment here. I now want to present Pat with her own gavel, which will commemorate your year as service as the 139th President of the Chicago Bar Association. Of course. And might be a good idea for you to stay seated because there's going to be a couple more things I'm piling on top of you here, okay? Back to that CV that I mentioned of yours. You know in that column on the CV where it says state prosecutor, federal prosecutor, first assistant corporation counsel, circuit court judge, partner in a national law firm, founding partner in your own law firm, president of the Black Women Lawyers Association, University of Illinois Board of Trustees. Now at the bottom, you can put in there, President, Chicago Bar Association. Okay. And so why don't you take some time over the summer to sit back, reflect upon a fantastic year, maybe think about what's next. And I can't imagine with your commitments with family and with work that you have much time for anything, but I do know that on occasion you do enjoy a good glass of champagne. And so we took the liberty of putting together Actually, my wife, Jean, took the liberty of putting together a little Dom Perignon gift basket here for you. And while we're at it, Linda over at the CBA put together a sort of a photo book, a collage of memories of your CBA bar year. And I took a look at this a couple days ago. It's really great.
Oh, thank you.
Open that when you have a chance and you'll enjoy it, and that'll be something to remember the year by.
Thank you.
And then finally, how could we send off somebody of this stature without some flowers? So. Patricia.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you for a great year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And now, folks, from the sublime to the ridiculous, after a year with Judge Patricia Brown Holmes at the helm of this organization, you're now stuck with me. And I can assure you that I will never in my career accomplish even a fraction of what Judge Holmes has done thus far in her life. But I also know that if I play my cards right, a year from now, I'll be able to stand here, just like Pat did today and 138 people before her, and I'll be able to say that I served as president of the Chicago Bar Association. And for me, that will be a life achievement. For me, that will be a career highlight. And for me, that is something that I promise to put my heart and soul into and do everything I can to be worthy of what I consider one of the greatest honors and opportunities that I could ever receive as a practicing lawyer here in Chicago. And I can't really hear anybody right now, but I imagine there's probably a couple of you whispering something to the effect of, how the heck did this guy get elected? Who's minding the shop over there? And those are good questions, because I certainly didn't get here on my own. And if you'll bear with me for a few minutes, I do need to mention a few people, okay? First, I want to thank Monsignor Ken Vilo for being here and doing our invocation today. Very few people know this, but Monsignor Vilo has been with me through most of the very best and the very worst moments in my entire adult life. And I think, Monsignor, this goes into the best category, at least I hope so. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here, because I know your schedule is such that you probably had to juggle some things around, and it means everything to me. And Judge Bill Bauer up here on the dais, who's been mentioned a couple of times already, Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. I need to mention Judge Bauer because he nominated me for 2 or 3 of the positions I needed to win elections to in order to reach this point of president. And so thank you, Judge Bauer, for all of your support through all these years. And I now look down at our tables here in front of me, and my wife Jean is here with two of our three sons, Brian and Justin. Our youngest son, Billy, is away at camp this summer. And based on the looks I'm getting, I'm pretty sure that Billy is having more fun up in Minnesota right now. Than his two brothers are, who are stuck at this luncheon. And guys, I am so proud of both of you. It means everything for me to have you here. I know you have to get out of here for football practice, but thanks for taking at least a chunk of your day. It means everything. And Jean, for those of you that know Jean, me, or us, you all know that she is much more than just a fantastic wife. You all know that she, literally, Jean Kotin runs my life. And it is not a figure of speech for me to stand here and say, I wouldn't be standing here without her, because I wouldn't. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't be anywhere without her. So thank you so much for everything you do, honey. My law partners, Tim and Sean and Bob, and my assistant, Jill, who's been managing my law practice for 16 years now. Thank you all so much for your support and for putting up with all my nonsense. And anybody here knows that you don't get anywhere in law without mentors, right? My first and probably my greatest mentor isn't with us anymore. That's my dad, Larry Kotin, and he died 21 years ago. But before he died, he was a great trial lawyer here in town, and he taught me how to live a proper life. And in law, he taught me that you can be a zealous advocate and you can be a successful trial lawyer, but you can still be a good and genuine person. And I've followed many of the paths that my dad took throughout his career. In fact, back in the mid-'80s, he was on the CBA Board of Managers. And for me, moving beyond the Board of Managers and now ascending to the presidency is the first time, and it'll probably be the only time that I ever actually eclipse that which my dad did as a lawyer. And I hope that he's looking down on that, and that's something that makes him proud. Philip H. Corboy. It was 44 years ago yesterday that Phil Corboy stood before this membership at this luncheon and became president of the Chicago Bar Association. And I'm not going to bother going through all of the important things that Corboy did before and during and after his year at CBA. Everybody knows that. But there's one thing which for me personally might be the most important thing he ever did, and nobody ever talks about it. And so I want to mention it. And that happened back in the early 60s when Corboy had a Christmas party one night. And at that party, he introduced his sister Marge to his pal Larry Kotin. And from that introduction came a marriage, and from that marriage came me. And so from my perspective, that might be the most important thing that Phil Corboy ever did. And I don't think I ever thanked him for that. But his fantastic wife, Mary Dempsey, is with us here today at our table. And Mary, thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do for our family. We appreciate it. Phil's son, Flip Corboy, my cousin, great trial lawyer in his own right. He's also joined us here at our table today, so thank you, Flip, for being here. And Thomas A. Demetrio, unlike the previous two mentors that I just mentioned, Tom Demetrio is very much alive and vibrant and practicing law, and I see him here at table 13. Tom, thanks so much for being here. It means everything. I think I considered Tom Demetrio more than anybody else as the person who really taught me the nuts and bolts of this practice. Tom taught me how to be a professional. He taught me how to really try a case. And as far as the CBA is concerned, Tom gave me a piece of advice about a dozen years ago, which I'm sure he doesn't even remember. But because Tom was president of the CBA back in the 90s, I thought he would be an appropriate person to ask. And so about a dozen years ago, I asked him what he thought I should do to try to move on to a leadership track here at the CBA. And his answer was simple, but it was perfect. Get to know Murphy, he said. Terry Murphy, Tom said, he is the CBA. And then he said something along the lines of, I don't know whether you have a chance to do anything over there, but if you do, talk to Murphy about it and follow his lead because he'll show you the path. And so there began a countless number of breakfasts and lunches and coffees and conversations with Terry Murphy over the past decade. And throughout all of those conversations, Terry's message has been consistent. If you work hard, he said, and if you put this organization first, there is no limit to what anybody can achieve at the Chicago Bar Association. And I agree with that message. I agree with that mantra 100%. Because the truth is, the CBA is not about me, not even this year. It's not about Pat Holmes. It's not about Judge Mulroy. It's not about Steve Elrod. The CBA is about you, meaning it's about our membership. It's about doing what we can do to improve the practice of law. It's about improving bench bar relations. It's about improving our legal system so that we can benefit our citizens. And you know, I spent a lot of time at that building across the street, and a lot of people have asked me over the years, why do you do all that CBA stuff? You get a lot of business from there? And I say, you know, I don't know, maybe some, but that's not why I do it. The reason I do it is, first of all, I have met dozens, if not hundreds, of lawyers who I otherwise would never know, many of whom have become very close friends of mine. And with those people, we actually do good work. We do work which helps people, which helps our system, which helps our members, which helps the public. And when you do good work, and you do it with people that you enjoy, that's fun. And so I think the short answer is, I do all the CBA stuff because it's fun. And we are going to have a lot of fun in the next 12 months. For example, I was going to break this news to you, but I see that everybody got a little flyer when you came and sat down. Terry and I just got back last month from a reconnaissance trip to London, where we were planning next year's CLE abroad trip, which will be in London, England, April 10th through the 13th. And I'll admit that when we settled on London as a destination, I was a little bit apprehensive about it because London as a destination is not really that unique, you know? It seems like everybody's been to London, right? Multiple times. But after coming back from this trip, I can assure every one of you that if you join us next April, you will see and experience a London that you have never experienced before. And if you join us next April, you will see and have access to London and its legal system that you'd never have access to unless you're part of our program. And the trip keeps gaining momentum. We learned last week that the Illinois Judges Association is going to be joining us. And so stay tuned. And if I haven't twisted your arm already, I will. Next April, it's going to be great. But don't get the idea that I'm going to try to turn this organization into some kind of a social club, because the Chicago Bar Association will continue to do the substantive, important works that it's done and which has distinguished this organization from every other bar association for the past century. And one of those is going to be a continued initiative to address a terrible crisis which is plaguing our society, and that's access to justice. The stark fact is that 90% of our public cannot afford to pay for the legal services they need. 90% of our citizens can't afford a lawyer, and that group is right here. And then the sad reality is that over here, we still have thousands of lawyers in Illinois who are either unemployed or underemployed. But these two groups don't know each other. And so over the next year, we are going to do everything we can to, number one, introduce these two groups to each other, and do anything else that we can do to try to help our legal system to actually benefit those individuals whom it was constitutionally created to serve, the public. That I know is a tall order, and that's going to require an awful lot of help. And I think that on that note, it might be appropriate for me to conclude my remarks by sharing with you the final paragraph of the speech given by Phil Corboy on June 22nd, 1972, before this membership at this luncheon when he became president. And on that date, Corboy finished his speech by saying, quote, "I have no great illusions that we are going to change the world during the next year, and I have no great ideas that we are even going to change much of our profession. But with a little luck, and with a lot of help from all of you, we will make a dent in it." End quote. I couldn't say it any better myself. Thank you all so much for this great honor and opportunity. And with that, the 143rd annual meeting of the Chicago Bar Association is hereby adjourned.